Hello and welcome once again to Pure Experiences live streams. We are reading some teachings from Ranjit Maharaj, and this is the second part of our reading. So let us begin the second section of the article, teachings of Ranjit Maharaj, Nothing is Everything. Knowledge and Ignorance. Rameshwar Maharaj. First day of knowledge. While our mythologists say that one should first renounce everything, then receive knowledge, he said that renunciation without knowledge is useless. It becomes a bondage of the mind. For example, a nice meal is prepared. There is a sweet smell and everybody wants to eat. But you tell the others, don't eat. They ask you, why not? You then let them know that there is poison in the food. The knowledge of the poison leads to immediate renunciation. So, if at first there is knowledge, renunciation automatically must follow. The one who doesn't want to know anything is the reality. First, mental understanding is required, and after that comes a practical understanding. Intellectual talent is the greatest thing. Without the intellect, one cannot understand. So, you have to understand with the full intellect, and then that knowledge or that understanding will submerge. Because knowledge is a thought. A good thought or a bad thought, both are thoughts. So knowledge is a golden thorn and ignorance is an ordinary thorn, and both are bondage. Suppose your hands have been put in handcuffs. Maybe they are iron handcuffs or maybe they are golden, but it's still bondage. So both are thorns. One should understand and throw them away. It is very difficult to throw out the knowledge because ego remains up till knowledge. Knowledge is the ego, nothing else. To erase that knowledge, one should say, I know nothing. As Socrates said, I know that I don't know. Knowledge is the medicine, not the disease. The disease is ego and is dispelled by the clear-cut understanding that it is unreal. Breathing is just wind, and yet you have built many castles from this wind. If you understand this, that everything is illusion and is sustained only by wind, then you will be out of the clutch of ignorance. By ignorance, you accumulate everything, and by understanding, you throw it away. Understanding is realizing. In the beginning, the Master says that knowledge is necessary, but in the end, that knowledge merges with the final reality. There is no experience in reality. What experience have you got when you sleep? Reality is there and everything else is not. It is beyond ignorance and knowledge. For example, darkness and light go together. A light goes off and darkness is there. And if you turn on the light, darkness automatically goes away. They are one. In the same way, knowledge and ignorance are both one. In my master's words, Rameshwar Maharaj, and knowledge is the greatest ignorance. Through knowledge, we know that which is nothing. And that is the trick. Nothing else. One should know this trick. So let us see what is going on here in the Department of Knowledge and Ignorance. It will be shocking for many to hear these things, like knowledge will not give you any understanding of the reality, or that knowledge is equal to ignorance. There is no difference between knowledge and ignorance. And then your guru will insist that you get the knowledge, get rid of the ignorance. So this affair of knowledge and ignorance is very complicated. For a newcomer, it is actually very difficult to understand why this is so. Here, Ranjit Maharaj has directly actually revealed that, well, knowledge is like a golden thorn. It is bondage. In the end, the knowledge is an accumulation in the ego, that means the mind. And ultimately, one needs to let go of whatever knowledge is there. So this can be tricky. If I need to let go of the knowledge, then why should I acquire knowledge? This should be the question. And Ranjit Maharaj is saying that in the beginning, the master says that knowledge is necessary. But in the end, that knowledge merges with the final reality. Knowledge comes from experience. Whatever we perceive, whatever we think, whatever we rationalize and intellectualize, conceptualize is knowledge. Knowledge is forming rational relations between our different experiences. This is, in a nutshell, the definition of knowledge. It is relations. And the reality is not relative. Reality is absolute. When there is a relation, there are two or many. One thing knows the other. One thing relates to the other. But this is not the nature of the reality. These are concepts juggling in the mind. That's all the knowledge is. And in order to reach the reality, you must give up this kind of play of knowledge in the mind. What remains is the reality or the absolute. When there is only one, what can it know? It does not know anything. And therefore, Ranjit Maharaj is saying here, the one who doesn't want to know anything is the reality. The one who wants to know, the one who has ignorance, is the mind. It is an arising in this absolute reality. It arises and then it fades. It is not permanent. That which is witnessing the rising of knowledge is permanent, is the only thing that stays. When there was ignorance, there was this witnessing reality. When there was knowledge, there was this witnessing reality. It is not affected by the amount of ignorance or knowledge that mind is holding. There are 3 stages of knowledge, as you can guess. First is total ignorance, which is ignorance is simply believing the untrue to be true. If you do not believe anything, then there is no ignorance, but there is also no knowledge. This is total innocence. But if there are blind beliefs in the mind, if it has attached, accumulated set of concepts which are ultimately a source of suffering, because such ignorance leads to suffering. And if it is in the mind, then we call it ignorance. When this dirt of ignorance is cleared up, and this is done by systematically, gradually showing the student that whatever you believe is actually garbage, the knowledge arises. Oh, I was wrong. Oh, I had this blind belief. I had this kind of notions that were stuffed into my mind by my upbringing, the society, or books, or education. When all this is cleared up, we say that you have acquired the knowledge. The knowledge is not a knowing of something new. The knowledge is cleaning of the old. And that is why when you are deep in ignorance, the first thing you need is knowledge. You do not worry about what is real. You worry about how much ignorance you have accumulated, and you start job of cleaning it. This is essentially the path of knowledge. It is very paradoxical that on the path of knowledge you do not know anything. You simply get rid of that which you know, that which you have assumed to be true. That is what is destroyed on the path of knowledge. In the end, if you are full of knowledge, that is also bondage. Because you know so many things, but you still do not know what is real. There is accumulation of facts. That is not knowledge. It is just refined ignorance. Now the old gross ignorance, the stupidity is no more, but the mind has accumulated something else in place of it. And such a mind thinks that I am very, very knowledgeable, I am very smart, I am very intelligent, and I am very educated. I know all that things that are written in the books, big, big books, Sanskrit text, or I know everything that these and these masters said. I know the meaning of all those things. That is again just ignorance. There is no knowing in that knowledge. It is merely reciting, memorizing, and dry intellectual activity. That's all it is. Once you know what is real, which is your own essence, actually, nothing remains to be known. All that is worth knowing is known. And there is only one thing that is worth knowing, and that is, who am I? That is the only reality. If you accumulate a lot of knowledge of that kind, that is just memory, then the ego owns it. Ego takes the responsibility of it. Ego assumes that it is my achievement, and then it becomes really difficult to throw it away. That's what Ranjit Maharaj is saying. It is very difficult to throw out the knowledge because ego remains up till knowledge. As long as there is knowledge, the ego will be active. The ego will claim it. The ego is going to nourish itself. I know a lot. This is ego. And finally, when the understanding arises, understanding of what is real, what is unreal, if this Vivek arises, then one realizes that I really do not know anything, and whatever I knew was knowledge of the illusion, which is kind of unreliable, it keeps changing. And so, the final statement of a Jnani about knowledge is that I do not know anything. It is all very, very mysterious. It is very amusing. It is amazing. But I do not know it. All I know is that I am. There is a witness. There is this witnessing consciousness. That's all. If you say even one word more than that, it becomes ignorance. However refined it is just ignorance. So in the beginning, when there is a lot of ignorance, gross ignorance, presence of blind beliefs in the mind that are producing very odd behavior and suffering for the self or for others, then it is like a disease. Ignorance is the only disease that this humanity has, and knowledge is the cure. Knowledge is the, and when the ignorance is replaced by knowledge, the mind is purified and it is ready to grasp the reality, which is beyond knowledge. So as I said, that the knowledge comes through experience, but the reality is experienceless. When there is experience, there is also the experiencer. There is the I that is happening. The I arises with the appearances. So the statement is like this: I am witnessing this appearance, and I know something about this appearance. And this sounds like knowledge, but it is ignorance, because in reality there are no two. There is no I and there is no appearance. So whatever is known is also an illusion, is also unreal. It will be difficult to call it illusion also. So we can use other words like unreal or not there, non-existent. Like he's saying, what experience have you got when you sleep? In the state of deep sleep, there is no knowing. Because there is no experience, and it is very close to the reality. It is very close to an experience of nothingness, which cannot be called an experience. It is just nothingness. So the bottom line that his guru said is, knowledge is the greatest ignorance. When we are asleep, we are in reality. When we are awake, in the waking state, we are in the delusion, we are in the knowledge. We know something, and that is a big ignorance actually. So let's go forward. Lord Krishna has said, unless you know yourself, whatever you do is useless. If you want to realize yourself, you must devote your entire life to it. Otherwise, what is the use of life? Be fearless, roar like a tiger. Don't be like a mouse, always running away. Ignorance came by hearing and is dispelled by hearing. By words, you have become bound, and by words, you can be free. Words are false, but their meaning is true. The illusion is needed in order to go beyond it. Be ignorant to the world and knowledgeable to the reality. What you know today, what you are going to know tomorrow is all the same. In the same way, knowledge never changes. Due to ignorance, the effects differ. When you place a cover over the light, then there will be darkness. And when you take off the cover, light returns. When you wake up in the morning, you feel fresh. During sleep, you have forgotten everything, including yourself. By words, you have become bound, and by words, you can be free. Ignorance came by hearing, and it must dissolve by hearing. Words are false, and only the meaning they convey is true. When you understand that everything is an illusion, you will forget about it and realize that you are the reality. Whatever I say is false. I tell you, words are false. But I speak for the truth, for reality. Words can never touch reality. Forget everything, forget all words, and without any delay, you are that. Remove the veil of ignorance which has come upon you. Take away the cloth in front of the light, and the light is there. In sleep, one goes to this end. Go to the end and find yourself. Finding out means forgetting your mind, your thoughts, and your individuality. To remove ignorance, knowledge is necessary, but finally both dissolve into reality. In self, there is neither ignorance nor knowledge. Nothing needs to be demolished. Why demolish anything? What are these things? Things don't trouble you, but you go in and get troubles. This chair never says, I am yours. You say, it is my chair. So who is at fault? Not the chair, but yourself. You have nothing to do with it. You should see the world that way. You are beyond space and time. When you say, I am, then everything appears. What to do? When you gain more energy within, use it for the right things, not for the worldly things. All worldly things are an illusion, so why waste energy for nothing? You have to keep going. Hurdles will appear and must be overcome. Okay, before we go ahead, let me clear this up a little bit because somehow it became very mystic in the middle. So he is quoting Krishna here, unless you know yourself, whatever you do is useless. That we discussed this a little bit yesterday on the topic of reality. An unawakened life is actually meaningless life for whom you are living. If you do not know what you are, what is your essence, then who is having this experience of the life? If it is in darkness, all your actions, all your accumulations, all your relations, all your achievements are for nothing. It is useless. It is anyhow useless. If you are awakened also, you see the uselessness of your actions. You see the uselessness of your doings. So that is a big topic in itself. But all our actions arise from our knowledge or from our ignorance, which are the same things. And when there is no knowledge of the self, when there is no self-realization, the actions are meaningless actually. Then this question arises, what is the use of the life then? If it is meaningless, if it is purposeless, if it is not going to give me anything, what is the use of living as a human, as this form? And the answer is very simple here. That and this experience is here only to make us realize the truth. There is no other use of it. Whatever you're doing in your life is totally useless if it is devoted to realizing the self and being the self, entirety of it, entire life. Then it is of some use. Anyhow, it is finally, fundamentally of no use. It is a play. That play can be turned into something useful if it is not resulting in bliss or happiness. He is saying, be fearless, do not run away from this effort, which is not really an effort. All the effort that you need is to turn your mind towards knowledge. That is the only effort. Once the mind is aligned to the knowledge, it is really effortless. It takes a few seconds. So, most of the people, the ignorant people, they are running away from knowledge. They are running away from the truth. They don't want to know this. What do they want to know? Shiny things. How can I get more? How can I be more? How can I be bigger, superior? How can I kill my enemies? How can I kill those whom I hate? How can I have more power, more land, more mates, more children? And how can I have unlimited pleasure? They want to know all that. And when somebody tells them that, look, this is kind of dirt, this is kind of garbage that you are after, that is not your goal. Your goal of life is not that. You are wasting your time in illusions, running after the mirage. But they don't want to listen. There is a fear in the mind. The fear is of the ego, that if I give up all this material life, then probably I'll become nothing, which is true actually. Self-realization means that destruction of the ego, means that we realize that there is no one here. And that is the greatest fear of the ego. It runs away from spiritual knowledge. It likes to have that kind of petty knowledge which enforces its delusions. This is what we call as blind belief. People delude each other and they want to stay in this gutter of ignorance because that is what they think is happiness. They don't want to look at their own experience. All the experience of this human life is misery. It is all of it is suffering. Even if somebody says that, no, I am very happy, all my desires are being fulfilled, and he does not get one thing for 1 minute, or he needs to stand in a line for 5 minutes more, and it turns into a miserable experience. It is very fragile. The pleasures that you are holding, they are momentary. They look like they are a good thing because the mind is deluded. So finally the suffering will take you to the right path, and those who suffer a lot, they turn to spirituality. They devote their lives into knowing, what am I? What is all this experience? Once you find it, which can happen very quickly once the turning has happened, when the mind turns inward and inquires, finally, then it takes just a moment. So why do we have ignorance? Because we are running away from knowledge. There is no other reason. He is also saying the ignorance came by hearing and is dispelled by hearing. Nothing can be more true than this little sentence. It is just brainwashing. We have accumulated blind beliefs, and that is the only ignorance that we have. Belief about what am I, beliefs about what this world is, what these other people are, what this body is. All these beliefs, they are ignorance. If you wipe them out, there is no knowledge and there is no ignorance. There is just being, like a child, like an infant. But then people will say, then what is the use of such a infantile mind? We are not here to remain like a rock or a vegetable. So that is also true. But you are also not here to abide in ignorance, which came by hearing. If you hear the wise words of wisdom, then only there is some use of being an adult, being a mature person. So you can say that the infant is much better than an ignorant adult person. At least there is no ignorance. He is pure and innocent, and a knowledgeable person, a realized person is much better than an infant, because his life is going in the correct direction. So again he is saying that words are false, but their meaning is true. And this is kind of a cryptic statement, but what he is telling you to is to look beyond the words. The reality cannot be described by words. Only illusions can be described by words. And he's also saying by words you have become bound, and by words you can be free. So the beliefs entered our minds through society, through the words of others. We heard and we believed blindly. But the words of a wise man can free you. The words of a guru can cancel out the effects of the ignorance that was stuffed in our minds by the society. That's why a lot of teachings, and especially on the path of knowledge and Advaita Vedanta, the teachings are negative. They are negative sentences. They are trying to cancel out the blind beliefs that are in the mind. So as soon as there is a question, there is an answer which always negates the question. It does not answer the question. It is, the answer is such that the words of the Guru are such that they destroy the previous words that were installed in the mind. By whatever means, it is an accumulation. Ignorance is an accumulation. So knowledge is more like a cleanup, a cleaning up. It is more like unlearning instead of learning. So ultimately, the words do not give us knowledge. The words are a pointer that show us the reality. And that is what he means, probably, that their meaning is true. If you can understand the meaning of the teachings that are negative in nature, then you will be pointed to the right direction, which is wordless reality. Nothing can be said about the reality. So he is again saying, be ignorant to the world and knowledgeable to the reality, which means, in my opinion, that Do not run after worldly things. Try to divert your life towards seeking, towards knowing. Ignore the world and know that which is real. Otherwise, there is no use of this life actually. The human life is fulfilled only when its ultimate utilization is in finding out the truth, nothing else. So hopefully that clears up this little bit cryptic words that are written here. Again, he's saying words can never touch reality. Forget everything, forget all words, and without any delay, you are that. Yes, once you clear the ignorance, and once you let go of the knowledge, you will find that I am always that. I was always that, and I'll remain always that. In self, there is neither ignorance nor knowledge. Because there is only one, there is nothing else to know. And the self is known by simply being the self. There is only this emptiness, so there is no ignorance also. It is very, very pure. There is nothing to be ignorant about. There are no concepts. There are no preferences. There is no impurity in the self. So you will find that only when you let go of both knowledge and ignorance. What is there to know in the self? What is there to know in the reality? It is just pure being. And then it says, nothing needs to be demolished. Why demolish anything? There are some practices that are too harsh about renunciation and all these things. And once you have the understanding that these things are illusory, can you own the illusion? Is it possible to own anything which is illusory? No. You can only have a notion, you can only have this ignorance that these things are real, they are mine, that is his, and this is theirs, and so on. These are only ideas in the mind. So he's saying the chair never says that I am yours. The mind says, this is mine, that is mine. What are you going to renounce if it is not really yours? If it is not really there? When this understanding happens, you see that you never owned anything. You never have anything. Even the so-called body is, my body is not yours. It is an arising on the screen of consciousness, and it dissolves, it disappears, just like everything else. It is an object. That's all it is. Not only people have this delusion that I am the body, they also say that I have a body. So the ego likes to own everything. The body never says that I am yours. It is going. It was born, and then steadily it travels to the grave or to the cremation place. There is a thought in the mind that I own these things. And therefore, the Guru will tell you, you need to renounce. But how can you renounce if it is not yours? So this understanding is the renunciation. Nothing more needs to be done. Nothing more needs to be destroyed, demolished, except ignorance. So let's go forward. You have to keep going. Hurdles will appear and must be overcome. One should overcome the problems. A problem is a thought. From your childhood, you have accumulated many thoughts. Who has given you all those thoughts? Your father, your mother, your friends in your circle. Everything has come to you. They are all ignorant people. So, what can they give you? What can darkness give to the light? Tell me. Nothing, isn't it? What can you find in darkness? Nothing. All thoughts or habits are not true. All have come to you due to ignorance. Go to the source from where they arise, and that is all. All bondage is only a mental bondage which you have borrowed from someone else. Money that is borrowed is not yours. In the same way, you have borrowed the thoughts of others and have taken them as your own bondage. How can it be? Throw off that bondage. Who stops you? Give the money to the creditor and you are free of all debt. You have to be free of debt. Ignorance is taking the world and its objects to be real. The world never tells you I am real, and no object ever tells you I belong to you. It is you who takes all this to be true, yet it is all only a fleeting illusion. Those who still have love for the illusion do not know who they are. When you reject everything, you will know I am reality. Gold is indifferent to what shape it may take as an ornament. If golden bangles are broken, their shape changes, but the gold doesn't care. It can take another form, so why should it worry? It can take the form of a dog or of a god. It is unconcerned with the form. In the same way, be indifferent to anything that has a form. All the knowledge you have accumulated is nothing but ignorance. Nothing has happened and nothing is going to happen, yet you still want to know everything. Why? Why want that which is not? By keeping the mind established in reality, you become the greatest of the greatest. The mind eventually gets completely absorbed into reality, and you don't remain. So, beautiful words here, isn't it? Very beautiful. He's saying that there will be hurdles because there is so much ignorance. The society has actually dumped so much garbage in our minds that it takes a lifetime to get out of there. But fortunately, this problem is only that there are too many accumulated beliefs in the mind given by others. Because they are all ignorant, what can they give you? Only ignorance. Nothing else can be gotten from people. They are the most unreliable source of knowledge. Still, if you are in ignorance, you are going to trust people. You are going to trust the most cunning and evil of people. This is the habit, this is the tendency of an ignorant mind, that the ones who are telling the truth, they are ignored. That's why it's called ignorance, you see. And those who are lying, those who are saying that which is not true, The mind is attracted to that. Why? Because so many people are saying it must be true. That is what I was discussing in this video on the truths of the truth in our transmission series. If you are interested, check it out, where I go into the detail of how the society has distorted our concepts of what is true and what is false. So much so that an ordinary person does not know anymore what is true, what should be true, and how to know the truth. This is all wiped out from this human society. We do not really know anything. So there will be hurdles, but you must keep going. And such masters are like a lighthouse. They will show you the way. Or then there is Mother Nature. She is teaching you through suffering. So fortunately, all that is in the mind are only blind beliefs. They can be dropped in one day if you want. The whole trouble is to arrive at that time. The whole wait is to wait for the time that is ripe. Otherwise, the knowledge is here and now. So, turning away from the source of ignorance is actually turning towards knowledge. This can sound a little puzzling, but you don't need knowledge. You only need to get rid of that which you have acquired while living in the society of ignorant people. So he's saying, you have borrowed the thoughts of others and have taken them as your own bondage. How can it be? Throw off that bondage. How do you know that things that were told to you are true or even meaningful or useful in some way? You don't know. You simply assume they are true and you, like a machine, act on those things because everybody is doing the same thing. I must do the same thing. Everybody is killing each other and like this competing, this dog eat dog world. I must also do that. And this is stupidity. This is mental retardation of some kind. And that is not because we are somehow incapable. It is simply because we do not pause and think. If you pause and think what you're doing, what you're thinking, what you're believing, then you are capable. It can be done in few minutes actually. That's why I said turning away from these distortion is seeing the light. Nothing more needs to be done. So throw away the bondage because it is taken by you, by not being thoughtful, by not paying attention to what is being stuffed into your mind. That is all the ignorance is. He says, the world never tells you I am real. Somebody must have told you because I do not see the world saying, look, I am real, I am real. When you see that it is not real, the detachment happens. It is very natural. How long can you be attached to something which is fleeting illusion? Yes, you can laugh at it. You can be amazed by it. It can entertain you for a while. This human life is very short actually, given the eternity of existence in front of it. It is like a fraction of a second, just batting your eyelashes. It is that long. So enjoy it. But no, it is full of struggle for you. It is full of suffering. It is actually empty and hollow. It has no real purpose. And that is because you have assumed that this show is real. And you are trying to find a purpose and a meaning in this illusion. And that is the cause of suffering. Yes, there is nothing bad in the illusion. Can we blame the illusion? It is for our play, it is for our entertainment. And look what you have done to this illusion. You turned it into a nightmare. This is a dream. Its purpose is to give us happiness. Its purpose is to give us pleasure. And above all, the purpose is to know the reality, know the absolute, know that which exists. Otherwise, the illusion will become a pain. It's not a good illusion if you do not know that it is an illusion. Once you know that it is an illusion, you can play. Who is stopping you? But there is fear. Because I am this form, I'm not going to stay, and then I must take advantage of this life as if taking advantage is meaningful some way. I must get everything that others are getting. Otherwise, my life is no good. And this is kind of stupidity. How do you know that they are, doing something meaningful by getting, by being, by destroying, by hating, by dividing, and by turning this very beautiful experience, the world is beautiful, isn't it, into some kind of hellish journey, hellish experience. You are here for a split second, and that also is kind of full of suffering and pain. How can this be meaningful? How can this be useful for you? So there is this fear that I am this body in this real world. Then I am also real because the body is real, obviously. And that I am going to die, I am going to go. Let me do something, let me do something. What is the use of doing something if you're if it is not going to stay? So he says the ornaments are fearful because they can be broken anytime. But the gold is not afraid. So my essence is like a gold. My essence is like gold. There is no need to be afraid. I'm going to remain gold. The forms, they come and go. I'm not even concerned with the forms. So he says, be indifferent to anything that has a form. As soon as you see something, as soon as you experience something, it is not you. Neti neti. And now you are free from that form. Nothing to do with it. If it stays, okay. If it does not, who cares? Anything can be seen, can be perceived, can be known, is not true, is not me. So whatever knowledge that we have accumulated is only knowledge of illusion. It is equal to ignorance. The only thing worth knowing is my own essence. That's all. That is the only real thing. He is saying, by keeping the mind established in reality, you become the greatest of the greatest. Now, this does not mean that you become somebody big, you don't remain a human. There is only one thing, the reality, and therefore it is the greatest. There is nothing there to compare with it. Everything arises within it. So it is the only permanent thing. If I am that, then I am this great thing. And it is not that I become great. I realize that I am always this one. I was never small. This is the realization. There is a problem here because when I say I am the greatest, it is a false statement, because when you become all, then there is no you. There cannot be this all that is you, and a you who can call himself the greatest. It is not possible. You are either a separate, puny individual full of misery and meaningless life is going on like a run of a mill, or you are everything. No individual. There is no you when you are the greatest. So that is kind of paradoxical. The mind will not understand it unless it becomes absorbed in the reality. So this was Ranjit Maharaj's views on knowledge and ignorance. Hopefully that will give you wider perspective on what is knowledge, what is ignorance, and what is beyond knowledge and ignorance. Why these are relative things? Why do we need to know why there is ignorance, and how to free oneself from ignorance? What is achieved? A total dissolution of I. What is gained? That which was always there will remain. Nothing is gained actually. So we will continue reading this page on the teachings of Ranjit Maharaj in our next live stream. The next section will be about the body. So thank you everyone for listening today. I'll see you in the next live stream.